All right, this is the Town of Lakeport, Florida joint meeting with the Town Commission and Planning and Zoning Board for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. The time is now 6:11 p.m. Can we please have the clerk please take the roll call?
Mayor Mashad.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hensley.
Here.
Commissioner Linden. Here. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Present.
Chair Ahrens. Vice Chair Buckley.
Here.
Board Member Clark.
Present.
Board Member Lau.
Here.
Board Member Leduc.
Here.
Can we all please rise for the pledge? All right, please be seated. All right, I want to welcome everybody this evening to this meeting, this joint meeting that we're having with the Commission, as well as the Planning and Zoning Board staff, or I should say Planning and Zoning Board, not staff. And welcome to you guys here tonight for being here in this important agenda item to address. Just some housekeeping items to let everybody know of. How the night is going to go, we have Kimley-Horn, who is our consultant, who will present tonight on what they've done in terms of the study of the PADD. Upon that study and what they present tonight, we're going to have public comments. Now, I have quite a bit of public comment cards, so normally public comments are 3 minutes, but I'm going to dummy it down a little bit and do 2 minutes. However, if we have time afterwards, I may readdress some of the public comment cards again, okay? Afterwards, we will have us here on the dais that will have questions to either staff or the consultant that we will ask, as well as comments that we'll make throughout that segment. We're all going to try to keep ourselves brief and not make it too lengthy. And then after that, we will provide somewhat of a direction or execution of how we go moving forward. Just so you know, tonight there will not be any motions, nor will there be any votes of anything for anything that needs to be addressed for the PADD. This is simply a time to hear what the consultant has to bring to the table in terms of their feedback, what you guys have to say in your public comment cards, what we are going to discuss here on the dais, and then direction moving forward. So that's pretty much how it will work tonight. And with that, I will move things over to staff. Nadia, if you want to start us off, and we will go from there.
Good evening. Thank you. Nadia DiTomaso, Community Development Director. I will turn to Ruben Cruz with Kimley-Horn to provide the presentation.
Good evening, Commissioner, board members, and the public as well. It's always a pleasure to see community involvement, especially when there's a good turnout for something that's very important to the town. So as a consultant, a government employee myself for 20 plus years, this is always a good thing to see. Staff has been working with us throughout this process. We did turn in a report that was on a Friday, a tight deadline for you all to review and get out to the public as well. We are aware of that, but that's part of the process that we were going through and trying to get all the proper information in that report to give and give some of this information that we do have tonight. So a lot of local intergovernmental coordination was taking place with Seacoast Utility, Transportation, the county as well. So getting some of those answers so that we could provide that information to you was important to us and to staff as well. But with that, I will start with our presentation here. All right. So the purpose of the study here was just basically, the existing conditions, the findings, comparable communities, level of service analysis, the market, looking at the policies, which are important in guiding what happens here in the PADD, and also the community input, the workshop that took place on the 26th, not too long ago, getting the recommendations, providing some scenarios for the town and the residents to see, and move forward in the next step in the process. Some of the background was highlighted here prior to Kimley-Horn coming on board and taking over with the PADD study. And we're going to go over just some of this is redundant as we did in the past, but it's just going over the existing conditions. This is the PADD boundary highlighted in the green. You can see there. Everybody should be familiar with this area. And it breaks it down in what's common ownership and what's individually owned. We have the PADD zoning districts, the core and the outer sub-district, which is going to help gear how the development takes place within the PADD study. And this is the existing uses within the downtown area. We do have some corrections to make on this map. They're minor. One that is labeled as institutional up on 10th and West Jasmine is actually a gas station. Some of this came to light after we turned in the report to staff, and they'll be addressed in the next phase and corrected with that information as well. Not huge impacts on the information that we're providing tonight. And this gives a breakdown of the existing structures, the years, how old are these structures. And you can see there's a good number that are from the 20s and 50s, and breaking it down all the way down to 2018 with some of the information we were able to pull. So we do have some age on the structures, which adds to that character. That's where a lot of this historic nature and character comes from, Lake Park, and is very important. This also goes down into showing the size of the parcels and the ownerships of them. A lot of the parcels here in this area happen to be less than an acre. Some are greater because they are under common ownership, but these are things to analyze when conducting the study. And so we also looked at surrounding communities because you kind of want to get some feeling of what's going on, what's taking place next door to your neighbors. So we did that. We took a look. Palm Beach Gardens, this is what they allow for dwelling unit-wise. Also with some of the enhancements that they allow within their zoning regulations. Riviera Beach, the same, and North Palm Beach with their dwelling units per acre as provided. Some of these also, they give incentives for, like Palm Beach Gardens, if you're close to, you're within a certain distance to a transportation destination. Other comparables was Delray Beach, as they have a downtown area. And this is another example of the Tri-Rail station. If you're within 1,000 feet there, they give you some waivers. Or they don't give it to you. You're allowed to make an application, and their commission will review it to see if it meets other criteria set forth in their code. Lake Worth, this is their densities of up to 60 dwelling units per acre, 45 feet maximum building height, which equates to about 4 stories. And when it comes to hotels, because they are transient there, they give an additional 35 feet if an application comes in and meets some of those other criterias in their code. So looking at the level of service, within the PAD. This is important because this is going to help guide the infrastructure of the development that takes place in the PAD. And this is where a lot of the communication with Seacoast Utilities took place. And as the numbers are very straightforward here, there's an approximate 229 ERCs which are available. There's 1,361 ERCs required for a proposed build out of 1,590 dwelling units per acre. So do the math, you come up to 1,132 of a shortfall. So with that, we know, okay, there's going to have to be some infrastructure, there's going to have to be improvements on the utilities. That's going to be important, communication with Seacoast Utilities as developers come in, as staff is reviewing applications for proposed project, making sure that communication is taking place to help guide what infrastructure is going to be needed for these proposed projects. And also, I was fortunate enough to have my partner tag along, Mr. Adam Kerr, and he's going to go over the transportation portion for you here.
Thank you, Ruben. Adam Kerr, transportation engineer with Kimley-Horn and Associates. We did traffic analysis at several intersections and roads throughout the town. Most specifically and most importantly is the intersection of Park and 10th. That's the intersection in the PAD that would see the most traffic. We analyzed it for level of service, and level of service is basically the grade that you assign to an intersection or a roadway to determine how well it's working. Something like like a level of service A is free flow, no congestion, nothing to slow you down or get in your way. Level of service F would be an extremely congested situation, maybe in a downtown environment where you don't get through the traffic light, but for a couple cycles, the turn lanes back up and are very difficult to use. The level of service standard in most places is D. We don't plan for level of service A or B because the way to accommodate that sort of level of service is through, for the most part, additional lanes at intersections and on roadways. So to build out a transportation network for level service A or B would go against a lot of other goals of a town and a downtown area to accommodate the number of lanes that would be needed. So that's why we, most places choose level service D. So we analyzed 4 different scenarios. The existing conditions at this intersection was level service C in the AM and E in the PM peak hour. When we added in all of the potential residential traffic in the PAD, the level of service actually did not change. And that level of service, those residences were distributed throughout the PAD. So there were some on the east side, some on the west side, some to the north, and so on. So not all of the traffic utilizes this particular intersection. When we did an analysis then with the full build out of the non-residential portion of the PAD, the intersection quickly became level service F during the AM and PM with significant amount of delay for the motorists. And then we also did a scenario that was what I called a reasonable build out. So instead of a 3.0 FAR throughout the PAD of non-res, it was 0.75. It's more of a developable FAR. And what we saw there was a level of service E. So not the D that you desire, but also not a gridlock situation. With that said, these are average type conditions in the peak hour, in the peak season, but in the peak hour. But there are times of day, certainly when the railroad gates are down or when there's a long freight train that goes through, that there's backup and the level of service degrades during those times and takes quite a while for that to circulate out. But in normal non-railroad conditions, this is what we were seeing.
Thank you, Adam. And then we looked at a market assessment. So with the market assessment, we're basically looking at what are those factors that are going to be key to having a healthy financial area. And these numbers here show the shortfalls and the positive that we're going to see. So projected growth 2024 to 2029, you kind of see the numbers there, retail demand, square footage wise, When you go and you jump to 2035, you can see that that number is significant. So when looking at the retail category here, you're going to see which are those types of uses when you get to your land development regulations on, I'm going to allow these kinds of uses within this area because this is part of the market analysis that shows these are healthy, viable options to take place within our PADD. So when we go over to the residential, it does show in the studies in our, what we call our, it's the Bureau of Economic and Business Research, which is BEBR. A lot of planners use this information for projecting growth. And in Lake Park, it's not showing a high number of growth, but this is something that we're going to talk about later on where there is opportunity because of the county growth, that this is something that we could take advantage of. And I say we because I'm invested in this process with you. So with that, we're looking at, there's going to be opportunities here for the town to take advantage of some of those residential projects to create housing. And the next section here talks about plan, policies, and regulations. We took a look, and these are the policies that have already, they're in your code, they're in your comp plan, and these are already ingrained in the system. So allowing compact residential, non-residential mixed-use developments, the density of 48 dwelling units per acre, floor area of 3.0 with some flexibility. It's ensuring adjacent land use compatibility, supports walkable, bikeable streets, public civic spaces, and promotes alternative and micro mobility solutions. So these things, these items are in your code, in your land development regulations and comp plan. And this is some of the things that we're going to opine on tonight is in your land development regulations. It's in regards to, and they're bolded here, is the height and also the density, because this is the magic that we're trying to make happen here. There's a balance that has to be healthy enough for this PADD to take place and develop prosperously. And these are some of the previously adopted waivers, and this is some of the waivers that you have in place. And the one in red is the one that up for discussion that we feel that needs to be discussed when moving forward in this process. And so I go back to our workshop that we did on the 26th, and it was, you know, what do we hear? What do we hear from the public, from our constituents? It's very important that we listen to them, because as you sit up there, this is our town. This is what we want to see. This is how we want to see it developed. So with that, when we did the workshop, we were able to get this information, and these are the
This is the Town of Lake Park, Florida regular commission meeting for Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. The time is now 6:33 p.m. Can we please have the clerk take the roll call?
Commissioner Linden? Here. Commissioner Thomas?
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke? Here. Vice Mayor Hensley?
Present.
Mayor Mashat?
Here. Can we please all rise for the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We just need a bigger guy. We all need to start losing some more weight.
Okay. Okay. Everybody welcome tonight. First, we have a special presentation and report. Presentation by... Oh, thank you. I jumped the gun a little bit too much there. My apologies. First, we have the approval of the agenda. Now, if there's any items you would like to pull off of consent, please say that now. Otherwise, if you see no issues with the agenda as it stands or any modifications you'd like to make, we will entertain a motion. Commissioner Linden.
I would like to pull 5 and 6 off the consent agenda.
Okay, so let it be on the record that Commissioner Linden is pulling items 5 and 6 off the agenda. And we will address those after we approve the remaining items that are on the agenda. Anything else? Commissioner O'Rourke? No? Okay. If there is no other modifications, I would like to entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as it stands.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Approval passes. Now, we have a special presentation and report from Florida Power and Light on town storm hardening, available power for new development, and town street lighting improvements. And we would like to welcome members of the P&L group that are here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Town Attorney, Ms. Baird, good to see you again, and Richard, good to see you again as well. Want to just quickly introduce to my colleagues as well. My name is Alon Koffer. I'm the External Affairs Manager for the area that includes this great town. And with me today are Robert Weiss, who's our Customer Service Government Accounts Manager, which includes the area of the town of Lake Park, as well as Gladys Reyes, who's here, who's one of our street light experts throughout the state. So we brought her along just for a little update on the street light projects and any questions on that front. We know you like to be prompt and concise, so we're going to try to move through this rather quickly, but we're available for any questions that come up. So just to jump right into it, just a very quick overview of the company as a whole. We are grateful to serve almost 6 million
And we'll go to the transportation portion.
Regarding any transportation recommendations, to maintain the level of service or to not degrade it to a severe level, you'd be looking at the lower intensity type options of development, limiting it to the 0.75 FAR or less. For the residential development, the best thing, again, for the transportation recommendations is to distribute it around the pad so it's not concentrated in certain areas. That gives the traffic a better options to distribute through the roadway network as it stands. We also would recommend the use of any mobility fees towards safety improvements and multimodal infrastructure. And what I mean by that is, as I mentioned earlier, to make the level of service better, you would add lanes to the intersections. The other way to do that is to reduce the amount of traffic. Typically, that's limited in scope for things that you can do to reduce traffic. But in this situation, a development pattern that incentivizes walking, biking, maybe parking once and walking instead of driving from use to use, things like that will also reduce trips. So anything in the development pattern that could increase overall mobility in the area could also reduce the demand on the intersections. And then also coordinate with Palm Beach County. These are for the most part Palm Beach County roadways. And so continue coordination with Palm Beach County on things like improving traffic signals, some turn lane lengths, adding to the turn lane lengths, things like that. We did analyze the extension of Park Avenue to the west. That doesn't make a significant change to the overall traffic it changes the traffic pattern at Park and 10th, but it doesn't change the overall volume that much. And so continued coordination with the county to address, to the extent that they can help with traffic signal timing to accommodate the traffic. Those would be our recommendations.
Thank you again, Adam. And then in regards to the housing, our recommendation, and kind of just as Adam had mentioned there, distribution, residential density across the entire PAD to provide equal property rights for all owners instead of this basket look at that is currently in place. And then allow a medium to high density residential as permitted uses, add diverse housing types like duplexes and multiplexes, and incentivize workforce housing. A little tongue-tied there. It's late in the day for me. But those were some of the recommendations that we were looking at for housing, and then the design and compatibility. We're looking at lowering building heights in the core, 6 to 7 stories, 4 stories to remain for the outer sub-district. Remove parking structures, height waiver, which was outlined earlier in the presentation, and then clear buffer and compatibility standards, strengthen waiver criteria and definitions of public benefits, which will be something that's important when looking at that private-public investment sharing. Promote infill of vacant and brownfield projects, and adoptive reuse of historic buildings. There are some historic sites here, historic buildings, and it's important. That creates the character, the harmony of what makes Lake Park. So that's something that needs to be looked at as well. And as examples, we gave some development scenarios here, and these pictures are strictly for the use of visuals to show, just to give a representation. So here's an example, scenario 1, 6 stories, 48 dwelling units per acre, 2,000 square feet, first floor commercial. That's all you get. And then 52 at-grade parking spaces, which limits the opportunity of additional public parking spaces on site, which in a downtown area, that's kind of what you're looking for. And then also 10% open space. So we highlighted that in red because these are what we feel are shortfalls in this scenario. Scenario 2 is 6 stories, 60 dwelling units per acre, 10,000 square feet of first floor commercial, and then 80 structured parking spaces. So that's covered parking. And there's also an
You're going to have, you got to switch the scenarios.
Sorry.
We're still in scenario 1.
I thought it didn't click on me.
That's
I
okay. Just making
apologize
sure
for that.
it's going along with what you're saying.
I was in the zone. And so here's scenario 2, gives an example there. So you can see then we get to the, first floor is commercial. There's about 80 parking spaces that are covered, and then you have the opportunity for additional parking spaces, public parking spaces out front. And this also gives about 30% max of open space for the project. And make sure this clicks over. And scenario 3 gives you a 7-story building with 70 dwelling units per acre, 10,000 square feet of commercial on the first floor, 10,000 on the second, and maybe some additional units. And then there's about 110 structured parking spaces. So, and then that gives a greater amount of opportunity for public parking, and then there's 30% open space. And this is just an example. This is that, where the ball there is. It just gives you, there's different uses of open space that can be used for a project. And that, brings us to this next step, why we're all here to discuss and get some input. But with that, there's some things to consider. There is some legislation out there that when looking at making some of these adjustments or modifications to our code and the comp plan, we have to consider Live Local Act and also Senate Bill 180. It hasn't been signed, but these are things that we need to have in our mind as we move forward in the process so that we don't get blindside ourselves. So we just wanted to bring this to you as well. And here we go. It's time for direction from leadership on the next steps here of where we're going to go. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. You're very detailed in it, and we appreciate you for that. We're gonna hold off on the direction part.
Yeah.
Because I have plenty of
comments
that will be made. And since we went down in comments, I may just go back to 3 minutes again. And what I'm going to do is call the first person up, but I'm going to call the person behind them so they're ready to go. They're ready to go right after them. Please be mindful that it is only 3 minutes that you are allowed to speak, so that way the next person, and we can get through all the public comment cards that we have. And we appreciate you for being considerate in doing that. So with that, can we add another minute? That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so the first person I'm going to call is Christian Centeno, and behind him will be Quinn Resnick. Also, we have people upstairs. They're in the overflow. There might be somebody upstairs that will listen, that will be coming down to speak. So again, Mr. Centeno, thank you for coming up. Quinn Resnick, you are next after him. So with that, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Hello, board, commission members. A little bit closer. Is that better? Okay. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity.
Can you
to
just
talk.
make sure you got the mic, you got yourself in the mic because these are being recorded. That's all.
Just a little bit closer, right there?
Just a little bit closer.
Okay.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you for giving me the time to have a quick talk and my moment to speak. No matter, which opinion anyone's here, we appreciate you giving us all the chance to speak on our behalf and opinionate ourselves. I'm just here to represent my family company. We are here moving to Lake Park, and me, my father, and my stepmother, we just moved to Lake Park, trying to conduct our business and be a part of the community. And we would like to see some more economic development and also maintain the culture along Park Avenue and throughout the entire city. So just with that being said, we're just happy to be a part of it, but we also want to be part of the development and also maintenance of everything. So, yeah, I feel like that's it. I just want to be a part of the culture and also be part of the development over the years and over the time. And that's all. So thank you.
Thank you. Quinn Resnick, and then following that will be Pablo Perhax. And I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and fellow residents of Lake Park. Hey, before it starts, I want to make a quick comment here.
If you could direct that to us here on the
Okay.
dais, that would be greatly appreciated.
No problem. I'm on the board of directors for Lake Harbor Tower South. I just want everybody to know that we were in a recent situation of a hostile takeover by a developer in our building. And in return, thankfully, we're able to pass bylaws, but I just want to let you know these developers are not always your friends. But with that being said, I was handed a letter on behalf of our community. I'm speaking tonight because I care deeply about the future of Lake Park and its potential. This is a town with a rich history and unique character, and we have an opportunity to shape its next chapter with wisdom and vision. I am here to strongly urge you to vote no on the 10th and Park development projects. These proposals are far too massive for that area of our town. While they may look appealing in renderings, the reality is very different when you consider traffic, infrastructure, and location. That corridor runs alongside active railroad tracks with multiple trains passing each day. We're setting ourselves up for a significant gridlock and safety concerns. The density proposed for that area is simply too much for the surrounding streets to handle. Now, let me be clear. Many of us support thoughtful, higher density development, particularly along the Lakeshore Drive waterfront. But the context is entirely different. The condo corridor on Lakeshore Drive is already structured for this type of development. And we want the town to move forward with approving a framework that allows us to decide what development should look like here. That's very different from 10th and Park, which is surrounded by residential neighborhoods and already tight corridors. The two areas are not the same, and the project should not be treated the same. We need smart development, but we need it from developers who have earned our trust. Forced development has not. They've caused ongoing disruption at Lake Harbor Tower South, misled residents, and were tied to a federal racketeering lawsuit referencing a Lake Park property which was dismissed on May 22nd, but without prejudice. Without prejudice, it could still be pursued again when more evidence is presented. Their first and only Lake Park project, Nautilus 220, is still not completed. It is far past deadline and already experiencing serious ongoing issues. Yet they want to take on even more. The risk is too high. If Forest fails, all these projects fail, including Marina, 10th Street, the boat storage, hotel, and more. That is too much control in the hands of one developer with an unproven track record. We should be actively seeking developers and ideally contractor developers who bring honesty, accountability, and proven ability to complete quality work. Lake Park deserves partners, not plans.
Thank
Let's
you,
move
sir.
forward.
Thank you very much. I understand if you have to clap, but if we could limit that as well, please, I appreciate that. Mr. Perhax, please go ahead, and behind him will be Kim Glass-Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Pablo Perhax, and I've been in this town off and on for well over 50 years. I agree with many of the comments of the previous speaker, but what I want to emphasize is I have read the Kimley-Horn report that was put out Friday night. I listened to the presentation here today. I'm going to highly recommend to anybody who makes a decision to take into serious consideration what they have said. It's an excellent report. It shows the shortfalls of types of development that will keep coming before the commission. It outlines ways of dealing with those problems. And I suggest that the decision makers really seriously consider the proposals. It seems to me that the proposal for the development on 10th Street goes against not only the historical character of the town, which is codified in the comprehensive plan and the zoning regulations, and is being ignored if the approval is granted. The infrastructure, obviously, from the study, is not capable of handling that. And I think that if the town goes ahead with a development like that under the plan that I have seen, you're going to be harming other property owners, the ability of other property owners to develop their properties. But once again, I was impressed with the written presentation and certainly the oral presentation, and I would suggest that the decision makers take everything into serious consideration and follow those recommendations. We've spent $50,000 for it. I suggest when it's well done, as it has been, that it be followed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Glass Castro, followed by Cara Rosa.
Good evening. Kim Glass Castro. I live on Ilex Drive. I've been a homeowner and resident for over 31 years. Those of you who know me know I'm also an AICP certified planner. I have both private and public sector planning experience for over 30 years, although I'm only 30 years old. Kimley-Horn did an excellent job summarizing the characteristics of our town and the desires of the community. Pages 24 through 29 outline inconsistencies between the comp plan and the LDR. We've kind of known about this already, though, from a memo that the town attorney put out about a year ago, and so it's kind of frustrating that the town hasn't taken action to address those inconsistencies up to this date. Page 34 is spot on. That's the challenges in the SWOT analysis. That is a perfect summary of the issues that we have currently right now: policy gaps in preserving our small town character, vague waiver provisions, and unclear density provisions. The recommendations on pages 38 to 42, I think the key is retaining our character, addressing traffic concerns, but still providing for economic growth. And that's kind of the balance, because residential development does not pay for itself. When you get into density and FAR, it just kind of gets kind of vague. I think it goes by character, building scale, and what's compatible with the area. It may be too broad to just use the core and the outer area as the two subgroups. We may want to look parcel by parcel as to what are appropriate heights and building massing in the PADD, and not just look generically at the core and outer core. In my world, I'm hearing that 6 to 8 stories is a sweet spot for developers. Once you get above that, it's a totally different grade of development. So I think there should be a little bit of market analysis, speaking with developers on what is financially feasible. Speaking of financial feasibility, we need to move forward with a town mobility fee and eliminate the county road impact fee, and negotiate the interlocal agreement that's allowed by statutory authority, and stop charging developers 2 fees so that they have that benefit. And I welcome meeting with any of you individually to share more thoughts.
Thank you. Ms. Rosa, followed by Daniel Nagale.
Good afternoon, members of the dais. Cara Rosa, I live at 1111 7th Street. I have spoken here a few times. I think this is my 3rd time. I've come a long way since the first time I was speaking here when I didn't know most of you. But now, throughout the community and the different opportunities I've been able to speak to each one of you, I know that our town is now in good hands. I hope and I am asking you to please look at the report that Kimley-Horn has made. I think it has good recommendations. I read it over the weekend. I also think that just being a resident, I've spoken to all of my neighbors in my area. We all are for development, but we are for sensible development. We all love Lake Park. We want to live here. We want to be friends with the commissioners. We want to be friends with the neighbors. We want to be friends with the developers. We don't want this riffraff, but we want our town. We want height limits. I mean, I have an open back pool area. I want my privacy. I do not want people looking in my backyard, and that's what will happen. I can see it. I can see it from my backyard. I look today. I do not want people looking off their balconies into my backyard. I've talked to my neighbors. They all feel the same. You all have asked for the residents to speak. I think the residents are speaking now. I will not miss a meeting, and I will speak every time because we want our town and we want to be part of it. I think this has given us all a good chance to get to know each other, good and bad ways, meeting friends, making friends, talking about things. We have pieces of the puzzle. Let's put it together. We have the community. We have the residents. Let's take this opportunity and let's make it what we want and what is best for the residents. The residents need something from this. I see the development that has happened. I really don't see what the residents are getting yet. What are the residents getting from what's going to be developed? Because this is where we live and this is our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Nagale, followed by Joanne Robin.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Nagley.
Thank you. I apologize for...
It's a long name. I live on 855 Hawthorne Drive, corner of 9th and Hawthorne. I just have one simple question to feed what's already been voiced here. I'd like to have more information on how this is going to affect our property taxes, this development. It seems at first glance that it would lower property taxes, but I know from surrounding villages and towns that that's not necessarily the case. And so I'd like more information and more analysis done on the rise that it will cause on property taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now have Joanne Robin, followed by Richard Galarza.
Hi, I have a question, really. How does this relate to the apartment development that was talked about a while back around 10th and Park? That's, one thing I want to ask. And the other is, when you talk about residents, are you talking about ownership, like condos, or townhomes? Because I feel that looking at the new development in Palm Beach County, you either have to be very poor or very rich to move into a new development. I'd like to see something for the middle class to be able to afford ownership in the area. And I'd like to see the traffic limited to that C range instead of D, E, and F, especially because we have that railroad track. That's a real consideration. And that's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Galarzo, followed by Susan LaFontaine. Richard, could he be upstairs possibly? Maybe? Because we do have an overflow. Oh, so no one's upstairs that's speaking? Okay. Ms. LaFontaine, I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and the dais, neighbors. My name is Susan LaFontaine, and I'm a resident for 25 years. Thank you for this and for the prior downtown development workshops. Thank you very much. I'm here to wholeheartedly support Kimley-Horn study's conclusions and recommendations. At the recent workshop on April 26th, the vast majority of community speakers were residents who made it abundantly clear that we do not want 12 or 16-story walls towering over and overshadowing our downtown and our neighborhoods, straining our infrastructure, and permanently altering the fabric of our community. We're not against growth and development, but we want it to respect the small-town character of Lake Park. We believe it must be thoughtful and integrative and not driven by vague waivers and density loopholes like the current basket of units policies, which allows developers to attempt to bypass the original attempt of our comprehensive plan. Lake Park's identity is built on walkable streets, small-town historic charm, and modest buildings. High-rises will cast long shadows, literally and figuratively, on the very character we're working so hard to preserve. Please deny a waiver request by the developers to allow over 200 residential units per acre instead of the 48 units allotted by the comprehensive plan. Follow the recommendations made by Kimley-Horn. Cap building height in the downtown core at 6 stories, strengthen the definition of public benefit, and remove waiver policies that invite inconsistency and push us towards irreversible decisions. We trust you to protect what makes Lake Park unique. Please stand with the residents and keep our skyline human-scaled and our future grounded. Thank you.
Next, we will have Steve LaFontaine, followed by Brady Drew. Good evening.
Steve LaFontaine, resident, Lake Park, 25 years. I have a script I'm going to read. I'm here to respectfully urge the Commission to follow the recommendations provided by your own professional consultants, Kimley-Horn. The report is grounded in data, community input, and the best planning practices. Clearly advises these high-rise developments in the Lake Park Avenue downtown district. They recommend a maximum building height of 6 to 7 stories in the subcore district. They also call for stronger design standards, buffer zones, and the elimination of vague waiver policies. These recommendations were not made lightly. They reflect studious review of the town's comprehensive plan and ordinances, as well as the clear voice of the community. They are crafted to protect the small town character, environmental, sustainability, and livability that Lake Park so deeply values. We're not asking that there's a stop to development. We're just adding that it's guided wisely. Please protect our town's future by adhering to our comprehensive plan and doing what your expert says are the right things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Drew, you are up, followed by Curvins Jean Baptiste.
Good evening. Brady Drew. I'm a resident for the last 5 years or so. Reading over the What We Heard section of Kimley-Horn's report, it doesn't seem like they were listening to those of us at the workshop that support the positive growth possible under the current code. I'll say it more clearly this time. I support the high-rises. Businesses in our downtown district have been struggling for years. I'm tired of seeing the empty storefronts. There aren't any bike lanes in the PADD, but when I ride my bike in the road, nobody honks at me for holding up traffic. I'd like to think the people in Lake Park are kinder than the average Florida driver, or maybe that my legs are strong enough to hold the speed limit. But the reality is that there just isn't much traffic to hold up. Local entrepreneurs are starting their businesses in places with more customers, and existing businesses are throwing in the towel because there isn't enough traffic in downtown Lake Park. Palm Beach County needs more housing, and we should encourage middle-class housing to be built right here in Lake Park instead of continuing to sprawl westward. I work in Juno Beach, and when we hire young professionals, it's difficult to recommend that they move to Lake Park with its existing housing stock of expensive single-family homes, aging apartments and condos, and its sleepy downtown. A denser downtown with new housing options will attract younger residents that are settling in Jupiter or West Palm Beach right now. 6 stories is not enough to wake things up. When looking out at this crowd counting votes, keep in mind the future voters who want to move into a nice new building downtown. Keep in mind those who want to see local businesses succeed, but who don't care one way or the other about high-rises and are home taking care of their family on a Monday night. Lake Park needs dense infill development to have a thriving downtown, and to be clear, I think that means high-rises by the future train station as allowed under the current code. Voters will thank you when those storefronts are full. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, please limit the clapping. Thank you. Mr. Jean Baptiste, followed by Mary Taylor.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and also all the city staff. My name is Kevin Jean Baptiste, lived in the city of Lake Park more than 25 years. First, I want to thank our commissioners, the city manager, and also the city staff for hosting this public workshop. Our community is grateful to have the opportunity to be heard, and we are watching this decision clearly because the future of our town is at stake. Let me be clear. The Haitian community is strongly opposed high-rise development in Park Avenue downtown district. We believe buildings 12, 14, or 16 story are completely out of scale of Lake Park. They threaten privacy of our neighborhoods, increase traffic jam, and put pressure on businesses that already have a big concern. We ask for growth and compatible with the small town character we value. No development that changing who we are. We strongly support the present recommendation made by your professional planning consultant, Kimley-Horn, who advised limited building height to 6 or 7 story. That's perfect. But we are here to say clearly to Kimley-Horn, please do not alter your report to the special interests of developers. We ask you to remain committed to the reflection to carry on, and they must reflect the concern, value, and property that the people of Lake Park have clearly expressed. And to our commissioners, you are legally obligated to follow the comprehensive plan which calls for modest, compatible growth, not large-scale project that contradict community vision. The Haitian community love the city of Lake Park, and they want the best of it. Merci beaucoup. Bon Dieu béni city of Lake Park. Thank you. God bless the great city of Lake Park. And I yield the floor.
Thank you very much. Mary Taylor, followed by Jesse Furman.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you, Kimley-Horn, for your comprehensive analysis and your recommendations for the town of Lake Park, PADD. Your recommendations do contribute to the economic development and growth of the PAD by adjusting reasonable building heights to 6 stories and 4 outer stories and eliminating the 4-story parking waivers allowed. This will make a more welcoming and desirable environment for residents and visitors alike. Also, it ensures that property rights are equitable throughout the district. It's not just one person can gobble up everything. Focusing on real issues, not a train station. I love Polar Express, but I put it in the same category as this train station. I don't think it's going to be here for, maybe it will, in the next decade or so. The reset will clarify to all concerned what is clearly allowed and required in the PADD. The revised firm regulations will allow the town, planners, developers, business owners, and residents to confidently plan for their future. They'll take the guesswork out of things. Somehow we got off track from the comprehensive plan. That's why I ran for the commission 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I just couldn't understand what was happening. And I hope we can get it straightened out. The recommendations do contribute to the community and character of the town. The report considered residents' testimonies regarding the strong opposition to high-rise buildings in the downtown district, instead limiting them to 6 or 7 stories. The issue of incompatibility with the surrounding area and continuing the historic character of the town was addressed. Open spaces and common sense mobility measures are recommended in the report. Quality of life issues such as privacy and maintaining the small town atmosphere also must be preserved. Lastly, the report recommended to foster public-private collaboration. I like that. That's about my favorite recommendation. I think together we can come up with something that will be good for the town and the residents. After all, the residents are the town. Thank you.
Jesse Furman, followed by Terrence Davis.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Furman. I own Kelsey Vintage Goods right here on Park Avenue. I am a former Lake Park resident. I was raised in Lake Park, went to Lake Park Baptist for 8 years. I also produced the Rust Market. I have a lot of invested ties in Lake Park. About a month ago, I was driving to work, and I filmed a video of my travels from Palm Beach Gardens down 10th Street to Park Avenue and took a left, and I sort of mapped out along the way, and I think it was a Wednesday, and I was just so frustrated as a business owner owning a business here for 9 years that Lake Park has gotten worse for me, and I wanted to do something about it, and that's why I'm here. Last Wednesday night, a group of us, myself and other business owners, started the Lake Park Growth Coalition with the intent to start to change the tumbleweeds that are rolling down the town, to start to change the abandoned buildings that have been sitting empty for the 9 years and double and triple that I've been in business here. And it's frustrating. And so I know there's action that we can do. I know there's a lot of us here tonight, and hopefully more than myself will just speak. I respect what the residents have to say, and I think there are valid points. But as a business owner that invests all of his extra time and energy to raise a family in this town because of my belief in its growth and my belief in its charm and its beauty, and what an amazing place Lake Park is, I think Lake Park can grow. And what frustrates me is when I go to Riviera Beach, when I go to North Palm Beach, and I live in Palm Beach Gardens, and I watch everything around us explode, and we are going backwards and have been going backwards. And I say that respectfully because something has to change. And whether it's a 6-story building or a 16-story building, it can't stay the way it is. Otherwise, my business won't survive, and there will be no downtown because there's about 6 or 8 of us that actually have a business in the downtown area that are trying to make it work. And there were some very frustrated voices at that meeting. And we're going to have another meeting in June to try to see what we can do on our end and not have to wait for other people to make these decisions for us and things that we can do on our own. So again, I know we've heard a lot from the residents, and I do respect the residents. I'm friends with a lot of the residents here. A lot of them are my customers, and I say that very respectfully for their wishes, but I don't understand how you can drive down the road and then take a right and think that that's acceptable, because it's not. I think the empty business buildings need to be held accountable for that 10, 20 years of emptiness that is hurting Lake Park, that doesn't allow people to want to come here, that prevents people from moving here, prevents small business owners like myself from wanting to come here and start a business. So that's, again, I'm all for growth. I'm also all for the recommendation of keeping the town charming, but I do think something has to change. Thank you for taking my time.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have Terrence Davis, followed by Millard Porter.
Good evening to everyone that came out tonight, and also to the commission and mayor. I would like to say I keep hearing this term called culture and character. What does that mean? When you drive down Park Avenue, what culture and what character do you see? When you drive down 10th, what culture and character do you see? When you talk to our school teachers, what culture do they want? Well, I'll tell you what they want, and I've spoken to them, and I've had numerous meetings, and they say, we would like to stay closer in town. They spend a heavy percentage of their costs driving to Lake Park, taking care of our children. I want to hear that character, loving our children, a community center, an updated library, businesses that are lighting up the area so when you walk through these communities, that it's not dark. We got to be out in front of things. I support everyone that came out tonight because they came from their perspective. But I'm a father, and I love my children. And I think everyone loves young people. But when you're making decisions about what you want, understand this land wasn't free. Now, if the land's free, then we can talk about going 3, 4, 5 stories. But when the commission and leadership invite us to town to buy property, and then Lake Park property owners start asking for high demand prices, that cost bears, we got to get that money back. When we came to town 4 years ago, I was already here, but we invested in town 4 years ago. It was $180 a square foot. It's $320 now because we held up development. We couldn't build 13 stories anymore because we held up development. But if we had built back then, we probably would have been at 13 stories. But the market is not going to wait on Lake Park. We must move this city forward, create jobs, get these young teenagers summer jobs, because right now, a teenager can't get hired in Lake Park. Raise your hand if you can hire a teenager right now for a summer internship job. Let's take care of our teachers. Let's take care of our working class citizens so that our retirees can be proud of the way the city has been moving. You can bring both cultures together. The old, nice, laid-back, beautiful neighborhood of creating great relationships, but putting skilled labor, plumbers, roofers, interior decorators, drywalls, all these skilled people that are in Lake Park now, auto mechanics, that downtown development would change their lives for generations, that one project, when those folks go to work and get those contracts. Please, listen to everyone, but protect this city and make the right decision, wherever that may be.
Thank you. Millard Porter, followed by Amy Angelo.
Good evening. Joe and I own Brewhouse Gallery. We've been residents of the town. The recommendations from the presentation I heard tonight have been made multiple times over the last 10 years that I've been a part of this town. Yet, although some attempted, nothing has sustained due to a lack of funding. Residents do not want higher taxes. Therefore, we need businesses, these developments, and the new residents they will bring to fund positive change. The location of the proposed development desperately needs help to improve its physical condition and is a main reason people do not come to the area and support local establishments. In the past, smaller efforts on portions of the 700 block of Park Ave were cleaned up and helped increase people to visit those areas. It worked for a while, but did not sustain because of lack of funds. The proposed development area could finally become a pleasant place to spend time. Most of the current residents do not go to this area, but instead exit the town through North Lake, US 1, or Silver Beach. The increase of density would have less negative effects, but much more positive effects to their home values, the stabilized or lowered tax revenues, and the ability to improve town amenities. These developments will clean up an ugly area of our town and ideally bring the people that may actually support the businesses in the Lake Park PADD. Once prospective entrepreneurs see that there is some support to the businesses in this town, we can get more small business owners to take a chance in Lake Park. Rather than the decline of the area and the loss of revenue over the last couple of years, businesses and Lake Park residents would see positive improvements throughout our town. As previously stated, this development will maintain and further raise our property values, allow for continued improvements that would make the town a more enjoyable place to live, all without having large tax increases to the residents. So please support these developers.
Amy Angelo, followed by Michael Steinhauer.
Hi guys, Amy Angelo from Oceana Coffee. We are a recent, not a new business, but a recent business to move into the town of Lake Park. And I can say that we are very proud to be here You know, we see the vision of what Lake Park can be. That is the reason we are here. So we are located in the CRA district. These parcels are also located in the CRA district. The whole point of having a CRA district is to improve the economic vitality of this community, right? So bringing small business, I can say it's not enough to just say we want these businesses to survive. They have to thrive. So in order for those businesses to thrive, you do need people to be living here. I am very proud to say that only being open a month with our new facility, we've brought at least 35 people working in the town of Lake Park that did not work here before. So this system of investing in your community and bringing development in does work, brings people into the town. So I would urge everyone to come to some sort of quick solution and a resolution to support development in the town of Lake Park. When you drag this process out and when it costs people lots of time and money, people see that. Other developers see that. Other businesses see that before coming and making a decision to invest in Lake Park. So please act quickly. Someone asked, what will the residents be getting? The residents will be getting a thriving, vibrant downtown that offers services to your town and your residences. Maybe some dance studios, maybe some art classes, maybe other bakeries, other coffee shops, restaurants. I think we all would like to see some more restaurants in Lake Park. Comfort is the enemy of progress. So is perfection. I don't think either side is going to get something perfect or something that works just for them in their own backyard. So I urge everyone to please come together to keep building Lake Park, and let's see some amazing progress. I'm here for the long haul. Thank you.
Mr. Steinhauer, followed by Lambert Johnson.
Good evening. All of you have a copy of my written testimony, which is much more expansive than the 3 minutes that I'm allowed up here. I hope you'll refer to it. I don't think I could be more passionate or more precise to reflect the residents' concerns about the high-rise only solution that's being proposed. I'm here to suggest to you that we all feel the same way about the PADD area. Its need for thriving, its need for revitalization, its need for respecting the Lake Park culture and history that make Park so special. And it's one of the great reasons why many of us have moved here. However, at the same time, I'm focused on this word only. The only solution that seems to be popular is a high-rise. And I'm here to suggest to you that in the United States, there are communities all over our land that have creative, innovative development projects that have benefited their community, brought the tax base to where it should be, and it is those opportunities and those ideas that we should be celebrating and incorporating as a partnership between the commission, the leadership of the town, the residents, and businesses together. It can be done, but high-rise is not the only solution. These examples of the United States are thriving in growth in our communities and they have rejected the only high-rise solutions. The consultant's report is thorough, accurate, and professional. It was worth the financial investment to put an objective eyes on our issues. I would accept it and urge you to do so without hesitation. I also request that you deny vote on this PADD proposal. Maybe the developer can come back with something more palatable. I'm certainly happy to work with anybody to avoid the high-rise only solution, but still grow forward as Lake Park should, and you've been hearing. Please then bring into alignment varying codes and ordinances to prevent such developer-selfish proposals from ever seeing the light of day again, so we don't have to be here in another 5 years. You have the duty to grow a Lake Park culture that honors our past while not succumbing to power following money. I thank you for your time.
Lambert Johnson.
Hi, my name is Lambert Johnson. I own a building at 911 and 927 Park Avenue, home of Camille's Pizza, okay? Been there 50 years. Let's hear it for Camille's, okay? My rents in that building 30 years ago were $900 a month. Today, they're $1,000 a month, okay? They haven't gone anywhere. It's because about 20 years ago, we went under this new urbanism thing in this town where we narrowed the streets and we made a walkway down the streets, which is very pretty, but it choked off a lot of the businesses that were in town here. So I think you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody's probably a occupational historian here and could tell us how many occupational licenses we had, but I think we had 700 occupational licenses 30 years ago, and today we have about 400. So it's really gone down. But I tell you what, I just got back from Nashville, Tennessee, and I stayed in my daughter's apartment, which was 8 stories tall, and looked down upon some beautiful little single-family homes, and they all cost $1 million, okay? The most incredible place I'd ever seen. So I just got to tell you, Nashville did it right. And I really appreciate Kimley-Horn coming up here. And certainly, we don't want to build just high-rises. I'm a proponent of the developer here building whatever building they can take the financial risk to build. But along with the multiplexes and duplexes and quadplexes and whatever else we can build around here, it'll be great for the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. At this time, we won't be taking any more public comment cards. So I will move on to the next segment where us here on the dais, we will have questions and comments that we will ask either the consultant or staff for them to answer. And I will go ahead and start on my right-hand side here. And if you can, just give us your name, and since we have both boards here.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Lau. I'm a resident of Lake Park and a new member of the Planning and Zoning Board. This is my first event, and I'm very proud of being part of this town. And also, I'm a visionary, and I can see the opportunities that this town can provide, and there can be a perfect balance. So with that being said, if we go through the study that has been given to us, there are many parts of it that are very accurate and that provide information that are consistent with many of the requests and desires of the citizens. So what motivates me to be part of this board is that I believe that we can find a balance as a community where we can all also, I'm a businesswoman, so I can consider the people that have a business, but I'm also a resident. I don't want to lose the charm of this town. So let's go work in the middle of it and try to find a place where we can all meet.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Clark. I want to say to the consultant, I really appreciate the work that you've done on this. It was very comprehensive, and quite a few things jumped out at me, but I don't need a comment. I just want to say on the record that they jumped out on me. One of the things is that you talked about the district's employment is dominated by health care, social assistance. I'm not quite sure exactly what you meant by social assistance. Maybe that could be clarified. You said the consumer spending is below the national average, and the growth food and potential it is also slow in food, entertainment, and apparel sectors. The district has a younger population with a lower educational attainment and medium income. compared to surrounding areas, and our population growth is expected to be minimum over the next 5 years with the PAD. Those are concerns that I have. I think we're more, as a town, we're more mirroring North Palm Beach. I just wanted to put that out in terms of our footprint, which North Palm Beach maintains a more suburban character. And I'm really concerned about the infrastructure, the lift station, working with Seacoast Security Authority and the developers. Whichever developer comes into this town, where is the money going to come from to get the infrastructure shored up? We can't see that the residents need to incur that type of expense. Some residents talked about our taxes already being high. That is a concern too. Hopefully, maybe if we get great businesses and certain types of residents living here in terms of income, maybe we might, as residents, see some kind of relief somewhere around the infrastructure, around our taxes. But that is a concern of mine. And let's see, regarding the transportation, we still have North Palm Beach and some other areas that are going forward with their development plans, and we bump right up against that. The last time I saw a transportation report, I really wasn't sold on that because it wasn't taking into account the potential development that this city was, or this town was going to have, as well as the surrounding areas. So that's still a quandary I think we as a town, as a commission, need to take a look at. And one of the things that struck out with me is the old and newcomers median house code of 44,000. The Rust Belt traditions household in 2024, 51,000. Those are not high incomes. And I'm just wondering where those high incomes are going to come from to get us where we need to go to as a town so we can see this type of economic development and growth. Those income levels, they just really challenge me. And it doesn't seem that the projections that you have 2, 3, 5 years from now, that they are going to increase significantly. I hope that they do, but I just don't see that from the report, which was very, very comprehensive. And I think for me, that was about it. There were some other things, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleague.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Patricia LeDuc. I'm a resident of Lake Park as well for about 6 years, and I was very excited to receive the report, and I felt it was very comprehensive. I thought that it was very mindful to look at what the comprehensive plan was presented and how it had been changed, and that there was a lot of inconsistencies with the land development, the future land development, and the comprehensive plan for the PADD. So I was very happy to see that those inconsistencies were brought to our attention, and that you had some very thorough and thoughtful recommendations for those insufficiencies, between the two plans. And I think that's really important for the residents to understand. I think the building height has become the main focus. But again, I listened to the business owners and the residents, and I believe that everyone has one common goal, and that is to make those improvements to those areas in the PADD. We have a lot of vacancies. We have a lot of vacant land. We do need to bring a lot more growth to the PADD, and I agree that a 6-story unit spread out throughout the PADD gives a little bit more of that, reflects away from a basket of benefits and shares more with a individual, parcel where it should be distributed equally. That way it's fair and it's spread equally amongst all of the, potential development that is to take place in the PADD. I feel that it would be more beneficial to other developers that would like to come in and develop some of the other additional parcels that are available or could become available in the future. So as far as the parking, and added the additional 4 levels of parking. I think in the report you also mentioned the train station location. Again, that may not happen in the near future. If we utilize that for additional parking for the downtown area, that would alleviate some of the concerns for public parking. The buffers between the new development and the single-family residence would be really nice. Then it would assure some public spaces for the residents, and they would feel that their privacy isn't totally being invaded. And I just wanted to make sure that the public benefit is more defined. What is the public benefit? And it would be really more helpful so that the public can understand what benefits they're going to get from this development. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
John Buckley. Geez, I'm going on 10 years here. I can't believe it. And sitting on the Planning and Zoning Board. And when I joined the Planning and Zoning Board, I wanted to have an impact or have a little bit of a say or what was going on and keep my finger on the pulse to see what's going on in our town. And to sit here tonight amongst you all and the key emphasis, it seems, kind of was on building height, infrastructure, traffic. My kids are all grown along, out of town, and when they come back at Christmas, it's like, oh, downtown's beautiful, Dad, and look at the lights, and look how nice. But what do people do? And it's like the gentleman from Vintage and all the stores. That's where my support comes. If we build 6- and 8-story housing, people are going to rent them, buy them, they're going to live there. But we need something, when it says downtown development, okay, that's where my heartfelt is, Lake Park, downtown. Honestly, I bet a bunch of you, when you go out to dinner at night, you don't eat in Lake Park. Okay, we get in our cars and we go somewhere else. And my vision for downtown Lake Park is a mini Clematis. Something where people are attracted to and want to go to. Because when we build these buildings, we're going to have more people, but we got to give them something to do. And the old IT building and right by the Gastro Pub or whatever, it's just to see that. Annoy, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's troublesome to be here this long in this town, and that stuff hasn't changed. So my part on this is, or my feel is, it's not hard to build a nice 6 or 8 story, great presentation, but what are we going to do with what we have that's existing there? And that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. I let it be for the record that Mr. Richard Ahrens, the chair of the Planning and Zoning Board, is in attendance. I didn't say that earlier, so I apologize. But I'm going to move the microphone to you, sir.
There's a lot of issues that have to be put into a balance. And this has been going on from urban redevelopment, which is basically what we're talking about, is our urban redevelopment. You can limit the vertical height, but you expand the horizontal, therefore you diminish the green space potentials. You also have to take into consideration, looking at the analysis that Kimley-Horn did, that if you have 80 parking spaces, a parking space on the average is occupying 280 square feet just for the parking space and the portion of the drive. So now all of a sudden you take all those pieces into consideration, and then I better qualify this. I've been a property owner in Lake Park since 2004, right? And we pay a massive amount of tax on a 10,000 square foot building, right? We generate a lot of revenue compared to a residential side. So I understand your all's positions, I understand your concerns, but you have to in analyzing this, you have to put everything into a balance. You have to balance the commercial side, which generates a tremendous amount of tax base, which reduces the burden on the residential side. If you continue to put all residential and no commercial, then you increase the impact on the residential side on the tax base. That's a given fact for the last 100 years. So I understand your positions. In fact, I developed Park Avenue, the 3-story building on Park Avenue. It's limited to 3 stories. What you're also failing to analyze is that a lot of today's younger people are working from home. They work for a corporation, but they work remotely. So putting into place live workspaces, which was what happened on the 2nd floor of Park Avenue. 1st floor is commercial, 2nd floor is live work, 3rd floor is apartment complex. Okay, so it's a mix of the 3 components. So I think when you're analyzing the design or the PADD criteria, you have to balance all 3 components. And I understand the comments about going vertical, but you have to be able to balance the components, the 3 components. There is the thing on the parking. If you take the building that was approved on 10th, it was the first 4 floors, if I remember correctly, but a certain percentage, 30% of that parking criteria was restricted to residential and commercial use. So you got a mix, so it's pulling people in to get a parking space. If you make the comment, let's put our parking over behind the fire station, well, how many people are going to walk from the fire station to the other end of Park Avenue or the end of PADD and it's raining? It's not going to happen. So, in analyzing this redo, we have to look at all these components, and everybody has to be fair-minded and understand that you got to put the 3 components together. You can't make 1 component. You have to put the 3 components together, and it has to make financial sense, or it won't happen.
Thank you. And then also for the record, I just want to announce that Ms. Evelyn Harris-Clark is also here tonight. I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier.
Thank you so very much.
So that way you are.
I just came from the hospital. I am in so much pain, and I am so aggravated right now.
Thank you.
But I came here to support our town.
Thank you very much. I will move over to my left, your right, out there, to our Commissioner John Linden.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a couple components that are getting mixed up, and it bothers me when I look at it. Firstly, Kimley-Horn, thank you. Great report. Nicely done, by the way. And I think we need to adhere to a lot of that, and I think a lot of us are on the same page. There's some issues, though, that we need to address. One is parking. Absolutely. And, John, you were absolutely correct on that. So what are the possibilities of additional parking? So I would ask Kimley-Horn to look a little bit more deeply into that, come back with some suggestions. I'm not a big proponent of giving extra floors to keep going higher and higher. And so there's got to be a solution. We just need to figure out what it is at this point. The transportation study that I looked at last time, let me just say I question part of that. If you've ever been stuck on Park Avenue at 4:30, 4:45, you're waiting to get across the tracks, all right? So something that needs to be done. And as I looked through that, I didn't see much on that from the report. I may have missed it, but I didn't pick up much on that. So 6 stories seems to be a number that most people hear, and what I'm hearing from the report seems to be a decent number. That cannot or should not include 4 stories of parking. That only gives a developer 2 stories to put residential in. That makes no sense to me as a former business owner. So the original plan for that up on 10th was the first floor as business, the second floor as parking. So that could accommodate a lot of that business for the parking. The residents, we need to figure out how many cars they're going to have roughly. I know we have a number that 1.5 or something like that. You know, I haven't met the person who owns a half a car yet, but so there's some things. But anything above 6 stories is really a push, because as it was mentioned tonight, now they're looking down over into our yards. There's an issue with the sun, and so forth. So that's the wrong place for a monster of a building. Different parts of town, whole different story. But when we're getting into downtown itself and the PADD, and when you get to the PADD, there is an issue with traffic going down there and getting people to stop, do business, go to a restaurant and so forth. We don't quite have that yet, but I believe that we could get there to attract it. And parking even on Park Avenue is a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but we got the big parking lot in the back on 7th, so that would kind of do it. So if possible, I would like Kimley-Horn to come back, do a little bit more on parking for me so I can better understand that. And I need to know the traffic situation. Just to change the timing on the lights is not going to work, all right? We had that big issue when we first went down where Oceana Coffee is. You'll see there's those little red things sticking up. Well, somebody accidentally got involved and changed the timing. And I was a commissioner then also, and I got so many complaints. It was unbelievable. Finally, Richard, the former, Richard Sherrill, thank you, got it resolved, and it solved that problem. Too many Richards. So we've got some issues, but I think they're all doable. It can all happen, but we've got to collectively work together. And I think when we get together the next time, if we get some of that additional information, possibly some of the other things that we could put to you in writing about what the study needs to maybe enhance on, could make a big difference for us. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Hello. I would ask the presenter to come up. I have some questions that I'd like you to answer directly. And be careful, because I'm going to say right from the start that I'm not pleased with the report. I hear people say it's a comprehensive report. I think the only thing comprehensive about it, and this is my opening, so you can come back at me after this. The only thing that I think is comprehensive is that you listened to a small group of our town and went with what they wanted. So that's my view of it. Maybe you can change my perspective on that. So let me start by asking first a couple of questions. Can you bring up the presentation? I'm sorry. While we're trying to do that, I'm sorry, what is your name again?
Ruben Cruz.
Ruben, right, Ruben. Ruben, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm trying to get some information. So if I seem a little excited about this, I am, because I've been part of this process. I was part of the process when we first put in place these projects. And I left as mayor because I thought, hey, we're on a good path now. And now I see that all changing. So starting with this, there's a map that you have that shows the age of properties in the downtown? Because I hear a lot of people talk about the historic nature of our downtown. Can we pull that up? There we go. I think it was that green one. The green one, yes. Okay, so I see that there's a legend there that says buildings from 1926 to 1959. So let me change that legend to 1950 to 1959, and the rest, 1926 to 1950. Are there any buildings down there from 1926 to 1950?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Why did you go back to 1926 then?
Part of the analysis overall was when the infrastructure was installed. So back in the 20s, there was some infrastructure.
Ruben, I'm sorry. Can you get closer to the mic?
It goes back to, okay, sorry about that. Back in the 20s, the infrastructure was installed at that time with it. So that was kind of like a starting point for that. And so infrastructure was 20s, and then in the 50s, I think it was 54, when there was an upgrade to the utility system.
Okay, so it's generally you're using that legend as a measure for infrastructure then, not really for buildings?
It kind of hand in hand, because infrastructure, the buildings were built around that time, so that's giving us a gauge.
I make a lot of people happy, I'm sorry.
Or maybe my answer.
It's part of my nature, Ruben. We're all right, right?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, let's just try to stay with the narrative.
So the question, my next question is, do you know of any historic buildings in the downtown area?
Not that I'm aware of. Not off from the top of my head.
Okay.
That part of the analysis I did not.
In your report, several times and in different locations, you talk about the historic nature of the PADD, right?
Yes, which leads to character.
Okay. I'll move on to the next topic that I wanted to discuss. And the next topic was that you did an analysis of transportation in the downtown area, right?
Yes.
And you used 4 criteria: existing conditions, full build-out as residential use, full build-out as PADD non-residential, using the 3.0 FAR, and 4 reasonable build-out of PADD. Why did you call it reasonable build-out?
I'll let our traffic.
Okay, thank you.
The reason we called that one the reasonable scenario was just within any sort of height limitations, it's very difficult to actually develop the 3.0 FAR when you do the math to develop that amount in a commercial type use. You would see sort of that level of development on a residential use, but it would involve multi-story commercial use in addition to the parking. It's just something we typically don't see.
So are you saying that you're making this analysis based on that there's going to be some commercial development that's going to be multi-stories? Is that what you're telling me?
What would be allowable at the 3.0 FAR would require multiple story of commercial development. And so that's why we did what we call the more reasonable build out. That's something you would typically more see, but it would be allowed. And that's why we did that.
With regard to the commercial aspect of it, there were 2 projects that were in place in the PADD before you even did this report, right?
Which 2 projects?
Yeah, the 2 projects.
The 2 residential?
That people refer to all the time.
The two
the
large
one on
residential?
10th. The 2 of them on 10th, right? So were either one of them considered commercial properties?
No.
Or were they mixed use?
We didn't do this analysis based off of specific proposals within the PADD.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
This analysis for the transportation wasn't based off of specific proposals within the PADD. This was just the general development, allowable development across the PADD.
Okay.
So whether that was in one place or spread across the entire PADD.
Okay, but I'm going to go to the next. I'm going to let you off the hook now. I'm finished with the transportation thing. In using that analysis, and here I'm coming after you again, Ruben, in using that analysis of the 4 different ways that you looked at transportation, did your company, in doing this analysis, address any of the economic forecasts with the same approach that you used for transportation?
That was part of the market analysis, if I'm hitting the point. In regards to, as Adam mentioned, we're looking at the entire PAD, not project specific. So when looking at the entire PAD, our market analysis is looking at all those factors and looking at it strategically of how this is going to be implemented throughout and what is going to be feasible. So we're trying to give you a feasible look at what could take place.
Could you put up the PAD zoning district map with the 2 legends that indicate core subdistrict and outer subdistrict? I think it's one more away from there. There we go. Thank you. So when we discuss these as core sub-districts, we're talking about the blue buildings, right?
Correct.
The blue areas. Those blue areas where, and again, I'm going to focus, and I know this is not part of your report because you didn't include that consideration in your report of projects that were presented to our town. So, but I'm going to ask you now, okay? Do you know where those projects would be on this map?
Down off 7th?
No, just the opposite of that. They would be away from 7th. 7th is way down there. You see where the 7th has the, that would be the outer sub-districts, which is where in the ordinance that we have in place.
Where 8th is on the, where you have park?
Yeah, well, there's one area of 8th where it has one building there on that side that may be considered core. But I'm really referring to 10th Street, okay? 10th Street, and as you turn the corner onto Park Avenue, okay? Those were projects that were presented to our town, okay? And it seems to me, and this is one of my biggest concerns here. Everybody's afraid of the height of the buildings that are going to be put there. 6 stories doesn't work in that area, and here's why. And this is where I would disagree with the report, and I want you to consider this, okay? Those buildings, they're not located near residential. They're actually a block away from, each one is a block away. They're located in a commercial area, and across from there is commercial area. Across from that is industrial area. So it's the edge, it's the leading edge of where our residential areas don't butt up to, okay? And so I'm concerned that when you make these recommendations for 6 stories, that was not part of the, that area that I just talked about was not considered as part of an economic analysis. With that in mind, if you just look at your report, if we were to look at a full build-out of the PAD based on your recommendations in the report of 6 stories, and it would fill in all through that PADD area instead of just in that section that I'm talking about. How long would it take, do you think, to have those projects built out?
That I couldn't.
You can't make an estimate doing these analysis?
I'd be a millionaire.
How about if we agree it would take a long time?
There's That's where
Would that be fair?
It's putting it all together, though. That's part of it. And I'm just gonna, in planning, things don't happen overnight. You have to set the plan.
We know that.
And it takes a course. So a lot of the things that you see here aren't going to happen overnight. It takes time for it to develop. But doing and putting a plan in place, that's where you go. You have to have the vision, the foresight, and also what are you working with. So in our analysis, that's what we're doing. We're seeing what are the existing conditions, what is driving it. You have all of these factors that you have to put together. It's a big puzzle piece.
No question.
And it's not easy. So to give a hard answer of this is going to work, I'd be lying if I gave you an answer.
Okay,
to
so
that.
let me ask you a different question then. So if we just had 2 projects that were coming online, okay, ones that already had presented their plan, how long would it take those projects, do you think, if they were approved within a period of time that doesn't include the last 6 months, for example, where they were not allowed to do anything?
I'm not here to speak on that. Sorry.
Okay, so if we were to put those 2 projects approve them, I'm just saying, as a scenario here, could you do an economic forecast on how that would impact the town?
If you're given existing conditions that are there, then yeah, you can direct us to move forward and take a look at that. But that's something that is extra. Wasn't part of the task, as Adam stated, and I did earlier. This is the PADD area itself of what existing conditions are there.
So the task that you had was basically to rewrite the ordinances so that it would fit into the master plan, is it?
We're not rewriting. There's the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations.
Right.
So it's looking at all of those.
And they have to be compatible, right?
They have to be compatible, but also we have to have directive from the governing body to help put those policies in place.
Well, if the governing body gave that direction 4 years ago, and these projects are still not underway because now somebody has said that we have to change that, how does that fit into the analysis?
Are they approved?
No, but the approval process was halted.
That I can't speak to that until something's.
So here's the. I know I've taken a lot of time.
Yeah, if you can stick with considerations.
And excuse me, I don't need catcalls from the audience.
Hold on. We're not going to go in this direction.
So control the meeting.
We're going to stick with the narrative. And also, since you want to mention controlling the meeting, we're going to stick with the narrative of talking about the PADD as a whole and not 1 or 2 specifics in terms of the PADD. So if you have anything to say as terms of direction or looking into, please do so now. I would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. And I will do that. So your report that I've read through that we got on Friday night, it looks as if when you do the economic analysis and demographic review, that's the only part where it really addresses the PADD specifically. What you do is you take the PADD and you make these recommendations, and then you go off to different towns like Lake Worth that has a completely different analysis than our small little PADD that's part of our CRA, and you make that analysis and you compare it to Delray, to Lake Worth, North Palm, Riviera Beach, and Palm Beach Gardens, right?
We're not comparing it. We're giving you some scenarios of different options.
Ruben, I appreciate you doing the work, and I think we need to do a little bit more work, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas.
Good evening. I do want to say thank you to Kimley-Horn and staff, our staff for the town of Riviera Beach. Why did that come from? Woof. Maybe it was comments that were on this dais. Nevertheless, for our town staff here in Lake Park, it's been a number of years, actually, since I've practiced planning on a day-to-day basis, and I'm proud to say that I'm a planner, so I'm very familiar with this process, and I do want to say thank you to our Planning and Zoning Board. This is my first, actually, having a combined meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board, and I will say we don't have this often, even when I was on the Planning and Zoning Board, but what I believe is certainly warranted here and needed is when we talk about our town, we talk about it as it relates to what the character of our town should be. That there in itself means to me that we need to understand what the vision of the town of Lake Park is, or what the vision of the lake, or what we want it to be. I've been here since the time they actually cut Congress Avenue through. And many of you probably aren't even aware of that. It changed the face of what Lake Park is. In fact, when Congress Avenue came through, the design that was intended for Congress Avenue was residential, non-traditional, i.e. what we see in Abacoa, Jupiter. That was what it was. That's why we had on-street parking there. That's what the intent was along Congress Avenue in Lake Park, residential. It was never intended to be what you see today as commercial and industrial. Infrastructure changed that considerably. And we realized, too, that the market also changed what the town envisioned it to be, but there was some vision that was presented to what we wanted it to be. But the character of where we are between Dixie Highway and US 1, that character never actually changed. It remained the same. I also saw some change on this dais, and I think it was probably the last time I was with this board and sitting in the capacity of the chair on the Planning and Zoning Board, which allowed for the development on Silver Beach and US 1. To allow for increased density, we struggled with that. I know I did. In fact, before it even came before the Planning and Zoning Board, I had numerous meetings with the developers about what wasn't going to work and the character of what we were looking for in the town of Lake Park. We are now faced with another concern, and that is, what do we want the town of Lake Park to be? Do we want it to be high density, medium density, low density? Do we want it to be urban, suburban, or extra urban? Because we are beyond urban, suburban. What do we want it to be? Do we want it to be a little North Palm Beach South? Or do we want it to be a Riviera Beach North? What do we want the town of Lake Park to be? So then I started looking at some of the data that you provided. And I looked at Bieber, yay, University of Florida. So I looked at that data there, and I looked at it and I said, okay, wow, we're in 2025, and you projected growth out to 2045. And when I do that analysis, hello, people, that's not even with development. That's 60 people per year. I want you to understand that. That's 60 people per year. 60 per year. Okay, now let me break that down into households. That's 14 households per year. 14 that would actually move into the town. So then I ask, do you want a high rise where there's no people here? Because the structure will be here. And when you put concrete into ground, that's 100 years. That's not 20 years, that's not 10 years. That's an investment in your community. I believe my house is almost 70 years old. I love it. I came to Lake Park for that particular reason, because Lake Park was designed by some famous people, y'all. And I love it. I love the quaintness of it. What do you want Lake Park to be is the question. I love, look at, see, I know I'm old because I'm searching for my glasses on top of my head. I shouldn't say old. I'm more mature. And with that, I'm going to say, it would be interesting. I mean, I keep hearing this conversation about 6 stories, 7 stories would be great, but we don't know what that is, right? So I would concur with someone that came up early and said, hey, we really need to figure out what that sweet spot is. What's that analysis? What does that look like? I grew up in Delray Beach. Everyone talks about it. Oh, Delray, 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 Delray. I lived in Delray. And I went back to Delray this past week and went into my neighborhood that I haven't seen for 40 years, and I was totally blown away about the type of development that's there, and also whether it's in character of what I remember it as when I was growing up as a little girl. And things change. And US 1 has changed considerably going down Delray Beach. But again, that is different than when you're talking about your inner core of your community. I hear people right now that was that we even pulled an agenda item the other day about traffic calming on our streets. I want to ask you, do you think if we increase density in our community that people won't be flying down every street that's north-south? That's a cost to us. Residents is a cost to us. I looked at our emergency plan the other day as far as information that we get back, and the majority of those calls were medical calls. They weren't calls that said, hello, I want to bring over lasagna for you. It was a medical call, so that was a cost. It was a cost to us as residents, and it was a cost to the town. Those are costs. We're not talking about commercial development where you get high yield, pay lots of taxes, not very a lot of services that you got to give them. I agree with another comment that was stated on the dais that there's a balancing act. And those of us who are truly in development and understands the dynamics of development, and I credit all of us that are sitting up here because we all have special talents that we bring. But the town of Lake Park have to decide, what do you actually want to be? Because when concrete hits the ground, it's in there permanently. I have sat here and I have had several issues myself, i.e. Earl Stewart. People are even here on the board with me with Earl Stewart. I had a fight with Earl Stewart because of what I anticipated it to be, because, to be honest with you, they cut off my intercoastal view. So now I can't say I have waterfront property or waterfront view. I have a huge Toyota sign, and I love it because I am a Toyota owner, at least have been in the past. But nevertheless, it's what do we want it to be? I am pleased that as a commission we came together and said, hey, let's look at this and let's see what might be in the best interest of those individuals that represent us. I have sat here and I have even sat with my neighbors and they said, you know, when is this commission going to listen to the people and not have someone dictate policy, whereas the policymakers are those who are elected by the people? Again, I'm going to say I looked at the data. 60 people per year, and that means permanent resident. If you have a big building and there's nobody living there, you're in a ghost town. I've lived in this town and have seen a ghost town. And for those of us who are vested, I don't know what might happen to the east of me. I don't have those kind of dollars where, those are discretionary income. I could, spend 3 months here and go. We're talking about individuals that really want to live, work, and enjoy being here in Lake Park. And it's at a cost. And for someone who stated here, I don't even think that you eat in Lake Park. Yes, I do. And anyone who's seen me or my husband or my kids, they know that we eat in Lake Park. But if you do see me at a chain restaurant, please forgive me. But I eat, and I make sure that because I love this community. It's not intended for me to be long-winded, but I want you to know that when I make decisions up here, I make it on the account of what you're seeing. And for all of you who are there right now who are loving Lake Park, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals that you see here make a huge impact who are part of that planning and zoning board. And I am proud to say that what you see that's coming out of the ground is 14 years of myself of service on the planning and zoning board that you have come to love. And that is, we wanted to make sure that it was going to be attractive, that it's going to be something that when you come to this town, you feel there's a certain character about it. You feel it as soon as you come here. Yes, we need development. Yes, it needs to be sustained. Yes, but I'm going to tell you, for all of those that are down Park Avenue, I see those ugly buildings too. But I also say, for shame on you if you happen to be a property owner down there and you don't want to take care of your property. Shame on you. Shame on you. Because what you have done is to come and to denigrate our community. Shame on you. You ought to be proud to be a part of this community here, to improve it. And to say here, maybe I can't get the business that I want, but for it to sit vacant and to look dilapidated in our community, shame on you. It's in the CRA, which also means, too, that we will even give you grants to improve your property. But when you have property owners that are here that say, here, I would prefer to forgo all of that and to make this place look horrible, I would say to any person that's here in the audience, write a letter to that property owner and let them know that you don't like it, that they should not come here and denigrate your community like that, because you are valued much more than that. Okay. Then I heard a comment that says, now that I'm here, I'm going to write this board. I don't know what it means by write the board. All of us are entitled to our opinion, but what I'm entitled to, and that is to answer to my constituents, and my constituents is all of Lake Park. There's not just one or the other. There's not a small microcosm group that's here. And all of us who have had the opportunity, I hear my nails being knocked, for all of those who have had the opportunity to go and knock on the doors here in Lake Park, we have heard the same thing, and you're out there, and I'm listening to you. These things, there are some revisions that are needed in here, but I'm going to tell you, if you build a huge structure, you're still only getting 14 households over a 25-year and 60 people. Say that to yourself. Is that going to sustain development? And it doesn't matter if it's 25 stories. So what do you want your town to be? Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Good evening. I promise you I won't be long. All right. Thank you for your report, Kimley-Horn. I really appreciate the information that we have. I was waiting to see a little bit more about the wastewater about it, so I really appreciate that in there. And I have a couple of, just maybe one question or two. We had the 3 opportunities to see which one we will want to go, if we want to move forward or what direction we want to take. But also, and this is not something you probably can answer today, but even if we did the maximum build out, the lowest build out, I didn't see anything in the plans about recreation or anything that contributed to the town, because it'd be more foot traffic for the, I'm about to call it the media center, but Little Library, Town Hall, the parks. How would, you know, new people in the community contribute to that without raising the taxes for our residents that's here now? So that's one thing I like to find out. I think the biggest thing, I think Ms. Ledoux said it earlier, is the height. Everybody wants to know it's the height. And then we have 2 kind of different things going on here. We have, you know, the height, the build out of it, and then we have the business owners of Park Avenue and what's booming Park Avenue. Well, you know, I was sitting here thinking that when one of you guys was talking about Park Avenue, I thought about when I was a little boy, walking down Park Avenue. We didn't have 2 big buildings or small buildings to drive business. We had a community that drove business. And I think Commissioner Thomas said it correctly, that we need to figure out what we want as a community. Now, with that said, I have heard many voices, just not knocking at doors, talking to people at local restaurants here in Lake Park, or just cutting my grass. I heard many resident voices. So as people here, we're elected officials, that we have to listen to the people that elected us. We have to take the data that we have, and we have to make a decision from our heart. And I was told that when I was first elected, and I think that's what we should be able to do. That's all I have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm not going to belabor it because a lot of what was said already I agree with. I'm just going to wrap it all into one obvious question, the elephant in the room. With the scenarios that you gave, do these contribute to the economic development and growth of the PADD? That's the ultimate question.
Yeah, that's why we gave those scenarios and options, is giving you a choice of how do you see what's our vision? Where do we see ourselves as a town? And these scenarios, these options allow you the opportunity now to think about where do you see yourself as Lake Park, and that balance, making that balance, height, density, the commercial space that you need. And then also it goes back to the density. How much foot traffic do you need so that those commercial spaces are sustainable? So I think those are the options that we gave, and based off of the market study, all of the analysis that we've done, these are reasonable, and I say that, reasonable options for the town to look at and consider, and for you all to deliberate on.
I know you have 3 scenarios. I'd like you to consider a 4th, possibly. A 4th with a little more density. I'm not talking like 16 stories or like that, but one that's more meaningful, along with an emphasis on public improvement. And what I mean by public improvement in terms of the parking, because that seems to be a overall consensus, is the parking. This scenario could also be considered with an off-site parking site. Like we have our train station area that right now we can't say that there's a train station that's going to be coming because the TPA, they all have their own issues right now. There's not even funding for a train station. See, you got to say everything when you're going to talk about stuff like that. Put all the cards on the table. And I know that for a fact because I've been hearing those meetings downtown. But can we repurpose it? Yes. And parking seems to be the emphasis of what's being discussed here. I'd like that to be an emphasis on this 4th scenario. Maybe a little more height because, again, we talked about sweet spots, and there could be room for more height on that as well. Does that mean the other scenarios should not be accounted for? Not at all. But I'd like to see parity more when it comes to that. And also to answer question, how does these scenarios contribute to the economic development and growth within the PADD? And I'm not looking at it in a small scope of two things or two things that are possibly coming or whatever. I need the entirety to be considered. I also need it to be considered in terms of the business owners that are there currently, because one of the comments was made was there's a coalition that was put together with the business owners, and they should be considered and put to the table when this study is being considered. Because I drive through Park Avenue all the time, every day when I come back home from work, because I work downtown, so I'll come through Park Avenue just to see. And I can come through Park Avenue and say I can come very easily without any problems or any traffic or any accidents happening to me. So to me, that's a problem. That should be considered. I respect the residents and what they feel in terms of the height, but I also respect the business owners that are trying to make ends meet in the town that they live in with the residents that we have, that we should all patronize into their businesses and enjoy it. Because the whole purpose is to live, work, and play where you stay. Correct?
Correct.
So that, I like that to be considered as well. So for me, a fourth scenario, more emphasis on public improvements, maybe a parking fee, also additional contributions in terms of infrastructure maintenance as well. You got something else?
I wanted to say if they're going to come back, I always believe a goal without a deadline is just a dream. But can we give them a timeline? Because we want.
They have it, I think.
Yeah.
They do. Okay, so that would be for me what I'd like to see, and if we can do that, I greatly appreciate it. I'll also send you personally my other thoughts as I go along, because this is a work in progress, and I know you'll be talking with staff as well as our town attorney to try and figure things out. But we all need to put our input, our feedback, and then consider as well the most important people in the room, which is those that are in front of us that are of our town.
Definitely.
As well as the business owners that are in our town as well.
Yep.
Okay? So with that, like I said, I agree with a lot of what's happening here. I'll get to you in a second. But I just like that to be thought about in a fourth scenario. Off-site parking, emphasis on public improvements, as well as maintenance in our infrastructure within the general area of the PADD. And okay?
Slight increase.
I go.
We can look at that.
All right. Okay. Ms. Clark, did you have something else?
Kimley-Horn was very transparent in our strengths and our weaknesses, and one of the weaknesses they brought out was the waiver precedents that have been set already, the codes and ordinance and our comprehensive plan where there are gaps. Whether it's a small, medium, large, whatever size complexes we decide to go with developers, we as a commission, we as a board, we have to tighten that up, because we have developers who see precedent and maybe favorability, and those that come behind them are looking for the same privileges, if you will. We have to tighten that up. That was the gaps that they brought into this plan. And also, too, I may have missed this, I'm not sure, as we talked about the overall Kimley-Horn plan and the various growth, did I miss it? Police, fire, medical, government, that sort of infrastructure, as well as the waste and the lift. Did I miss that?
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
He did
Okay.
elaborate on services.
Okay, we did. So I'll go back and look for that. I just want to double check. And in terms of the various build-out scenarios, if it's going to be a benefit to the town of Lake Park, I'm not sure Kimley-Horn can really answer that, because the bottom line is that is for the developers to address whichever scenario they are presenting to us, is basically show us the money. that is our benefit of them coming to do business with us with any size project. What are the residents going to get out of it? That's upon the developer to show us the money, and not necessarily Kimley-Horn.
Thank you. Two comments. Go ahead.
Just to set the record straight, every developer, every development, house, residential, commercial, or industrial, pays Palm Beach County impact fees, which include road, fire, police, public buildings. So it's not like you're getting, developers are getting off, and I'm not speaking for developers, but I want you to be aware that they pay those fees. In addition, I know Seacoast very well. I've known them, the director for 35 years, 40 years, all right? They charge impact fees for developments. Those impact fees goes to their structure improvements. So it's not like they're getting off, any person, a resident, you pay the same thing. It's if a resident, you're paying an impact fee. So don't be deluged that, you know, they're going to charge you more as a resident, they're going to charge this person. There is a fee when you go to make your applications for the number of units that you utilize, the flow side, that's an impact fee that you pay to Seacoast Utilities.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for clarifying that, because...
Mr. Major, can I add a little comment?
Okay, very quick. If you can, very quickly, because we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, so it took me listening to them to just put my ideas together, but I work for the Disney Corporation for some time, and they have a phrase. They have a phrase that reads, "We create magic." And the reason why that company is so profitable is because in a very small piece of property, not that small, but, you know, contained, they create magic. And I believe that this town can create magic if we come into an agreement of design, of resources, of entertainment, of charm. And I believe that just 2 days ago, I went driving around all the neighborhood. And the charm starts with how we maintain, as Commissioner said, how we maintain our property and how we push or help our neighbor to reach that level. So my final comment is, you have a point, but it's up to us to create magic in this town. And I'm sitting here because I know it's possible, and I know we can create that. The location is perfect to create magic, to sell. I've been to different towns. You go to to Love Street in Jupiter, it's a small piece of property. They create magic and they make tons of money. You go to Clematis, Rosemary Square, it's a small piece of property, but the imagery, the cleanness, the experience that people live there, it's quality. We need quality in Lake Park. We should go after that, quality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This was a good talk, good conversation. Kimley-Horn, I want to thank you for your presentation. You were very insightful, as well as you answered all questions and also comments accordingly. Staff, thank you as always for what you do in terms of bringing this together. And our town manager, I just want you to elaborate to them about the steps moving forward, if you can, please, before we wrap it up, as far as what will happen moving forward in the next steps. Timeline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
As outlined within the agenda item, there has been a proposal for a new calendar or schedule going forward. So this meeting was originally not included in your schedule. The idea was that we have this meeting to not only bring both the Planning and Zoning Board and the Commission together to talk about these issues and give us direction, but also to allow the public to have another opportunity to comment. in addition to the future opportunities to comment and what happened and also the previous opportunities. So going forward, we'll expect to receive Policy and Land Development Code text amendments as a draft from Kimley-Horn somewhere in the middle of June. Hopefully, we'll be able to incorporate some of the ideas and requests for comments or additional information in that by that timeline. The public will then have an opportunity to provide comment, and that would be about 2 weeks. Then around the middle of July, and then at the earliest June 23rd, the second draft of the text amendments would be available. And then somewhere in the August timeframe, most likely, the Planning and Zoning Board would hear the proposed comprehensive plan amendments and land development regulation amendments. From there, if there's a recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Board, it would then be presented to the Town Commission for review. And again, that would be both comprehensive plan and LDRs. If the Town Commission, and that would be somewhere around September that the Commission would hear first reading, that would be an ordinance. So each of these opportunities would be another opportunity for the public to speak and provide comment on the proposals that are being considered, including at the Planning and Zoning Board. Following the approval, assuming that occurs in September and at the earliest August by the Commission, there will be a requirement that we submit the comprehensive plan amendments to the state. There are various agencies that have to review, provide comment, and at that time we would also probably hold up second reading for the LDRs so that we can run them consistently or simultaneously or concurrently. And then once we hear back from the state, we would bring those back to the Town Commission. Hopefully there are no recommended changes. If that's the case, then it would probably be November 2025 or at the earliest somewhere in October, one of our meetings in October, that you would have the opportunity for final approval of the proposed recommendations to both your LDRs and the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you for that. So again, I want to thank everybody tonight for, I'm sorry? Yes? Go ahead. Please.
Manager, is there an expedited process?
We can work on that. This was the plan that was proposed to us by the consultant.
And the only reason why I'm saying this is that we had a zip, right? And, and I do realize that, but from the, from the inception of the zip to the adoption of this would have been like a year and then, Yeah. And I think that if we want to be friendly, and when I say friendly, I mean work as a community together, we need to do a little better job of tightening up maybe the schedule, because I think we have heard everything that we need to hear, right? So I would want for our consultant to try to provide us this within a week, because I think it's possible, right? And to let us try to move this through so that at least by August we could have transmittal to the state or whatever, because I think we have heard everything. That's just my opinion, if we could try to expedite this.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
One thing I didn't mention, that each of the opportunities, when they will go to either the Planning and Zoning Board or to the Commission, they'll be for public consumption, be available through agenda items on our website, as well as the policy drafts. So we'll make sure that all of those are as transparent as possible and that everyone's aware that there's an opportunity to review.
Okay. Thank you with that.
And thank you for, we'll definitely work on the timing. Absolutely.
Thank you.
What we can do too